بسم الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Um, so we were doing Seerah, and we have reached the the 10th year of Dawah, and we finished the few years when Quraysh were in the boycott, and then Quraysh did the boycott, and Prophet ﷺ and the whole of Bani Hashim went into boycott with Prophet ﷺ, and it was difficult times for him, and it lasted for, in different narrations there are different times mentioned, but up to 3 years. So it was up to 3 years. And then after that, soon after that finished, Prophet ﷺ actually had to go through 3 very difficult times, difficult incidents which happened in the life of Prophet ﷺ. And 2 of them are losing probably the 2 most important people in his life. The first one was the death of Abu Talib, which we discussed last time. And as we have said, Abu Talib was the father figure for him. He basically raised him from very young age. We know that he was orphan. He lost his father even before he was born, and then when he was very young, he lost his mother, and then grandfather took charge of him, and then Abdul Muttalib, he passed away when he was still very young, not even a teenager. Before that, he passed away. And after that, Abu Talib basically raised him up, and he protected him, and once he became the prophet, he was the one who saved him from all the persecution which was happening by the Quraysh. So he was very important. And then the other important person, that was the external political protection which he had. But then he had another important person in his life, which was his wife, Khadija. And there are lots of narrations which are there. And that was the protection for him inside the house. So everybody, as there's a saying in English, that behind every successful man there is a hand of a woman, and which is very true. It means you need to have that comfort, that safety, that environment inside the house. If you don't have that peace in your life, you can't do big things outside. So you need to have that peace. If you are just struggling with your own life, your family life, then obviously you can't really do anything outside the house. And Khadija radiallahu anha was the first Muslim, as we said, that she accepted Islam straight away, before she even knew that what she's accepting, what she is believing in. But as soon as Prophet ﷺ came after the first wahi and was saying, Zambiluni, Zambiluni, cover me up, he was terrified. So Khadija radiallahu anha was the one who comforted him, and she said, Allah will never disgrace you, because you are good to your, you do charity, you always speak truth, and you are good to your kin. So you are good to your family, so you look after them, so Allah will never disgrace you. So she accepted him straight away. So she accepted that whatever is there, this is truth. So don't worry. So she was, sorry, was something?
Was she the first Muslim?
She was the first Muslim, yes. So if we consider male and female both, she would be the first Muslim after Prophet ﷺ, obviously. So he's the first Muslim, but the first person to believe in Prophet ﷺ was his wife, Khadija radiallahu anha.
What about Khadija's, was it cousin or uncle?
Yeah, so that would be the second one, because she took him straight to her cousin, which is the Warqa ibn Nawfal, and she took him to the cousin who was a Christian, and he um, accepted Islam, and he said that yes, this is uh, Prophet Jibril. He used the word Namus, who came to prophets before you. So he's the same prophet who came to Musa and Isa. So this is the same angel who came to Prophet Moses and Prophet Jesus. So he would be the second one. Um, so um, she passed away on the 10th of Ramadan, in the 10th year of Dawah, not 10th year of Hijrah, 10th year of Dawah, before the Hijrah. Um, so Prophet ﷺ took charge of her burial. So he's the one who gave her the ghusl, the bath, and he himself shrouded her and put her in the grave. So everything. So that's there's a fit benefit from this as well. There are some groups, especially in Ahnaf, who says that the husband cannot do the ghusl to the wife, or cannot be involved in the burial. So it has to be the females who have to do the ghusl, which is not true, because that's the example we have. Prophet ﷺ doing the ghusl for his wife himself.
Precedent.
So yeah, so there's no real kind of basis to that belief. Especially in India, Pakistan, there are a few groups who say that the husband cannot do it for the wife, which is not true. And this is, we can use it as an example. So and this obviously, I mean, Khadija was the one who supported him when he had nothing. So even before the Islam, we have to remember that he was a poor shepherd of Mecca, and she's the one who sent him on this expedition, on the trade journey, from which he actually managed to earn quite a bit of money, because it was a very successful trade journey for him. And then she was the one who proposed to him, and he married. So he married her, and she was one of the noble women and she was quite wealthy. She was the wealthiest woman of Makkah.
This isn't related to that, but Abu Talib was like the chief of the tribe. So why was he? It said that he was poor. How was he poor if he was the chief?
So you have to remember they were not like kings. So the chief means the eldest most of the tribe will become the chief. Not necessarily he will own a lot of land, or will have business or anything. Whoever is the eldest son of the chieftain will become the chieftain.
Okay, so then did it
So they
say-
didn't own. It wasn't like a king or something. So so don't confuse it like the modern day kings of the countries. So they own the country and they own a lot of things.
But it's
So
passed down from family to
family. So so he was like the elder member of the tribe. So they will listen to him. So they will always obey him and listen to him. But it wasn't that he owned the whole land of the village or any of those things. So that wasn't the case.
Did it say what job he had?
So he was the administrator, the manager for the whole tribe. So that's how you can put it.
He had authority. He didn't necessarily have wealth.
Yeah. So
Wealth helps, but
yeah,
he used to have
yeah.
authority.
So like his father Abdul Muttalib, he was a rich man, but then you have to remember he had lots of sons. So all that wealth was diluted into all of his sons, and then every son had his kids and his family. So unless you keep on making money, you will lose out, and they will finish. The wealth will finish in the end. Sahaba report that after the death of Khadija radiallahu anha, Prophet ﷺ, they didn't see him smiling for long period of time. For months they didn't see him smiling. So it really affected him. So it was a big incident. It was a big sadness in his life. As we said, Abu Talib protected him externally, and Khadija was the internal protection for him, the comforter, the protector for him. Um, there's a, as we have mentioned previously as well, but there's a very nice hadith. Hazrat Aisha Razallahu anha said that once, way after in Medina, Hala, who was the sister of Khadija Razallahu anha, she came to visit Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when he was in Medina because he was the brother-in-law. Um, and as soon as he heard the footsteps of Hala, his facial expression changed, and you can see that he had this, all the memories of Khadija's coming back because he could hear the sister's footsteps, and that was quite pain on his face, and you can see that. And Aisha Razal, obviously she was a woman, and she got a bit jealous, and she said, which is not a very nice thing, but I mean, she said, "O Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, for how long you are going to remember that old toothless lady when Allah has given you something better?" So Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kind of rebuked her and said, "No, wallahi, Allah hasn't replaced me with something better. All of you, she protected me when everybody was against me, and she spent on me when everybody left me alone." I mean, that shows the kind of the status of Khadija Radhiyallahu in Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's eyes, and Khadija would be the first one to enter the Jannah, isn't it?
Children from that.
Yeah.
He said he had children from there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the whole hadith is that Allah has given me children through her when He hasn't blessed me with the children with any of my other wives. So that's the whole hadith. But and I think she would be the one who will enter Jannah first. And Fatima Razallahu anha will be the Sayyidatun Nisa, so she is the leader of the women of Jannah. And the other thing is that there's
You said that Khadija would be the first person to enter paradise. I thought it was going to be
oh no, I'm talking about the women, in women, yeah, amongst women. But yeah, well done, you remember that. So, yes. So that's these are the two deaths, and then the third thing which happened straight after the boycott, which was a really big incident for Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, was the incident of Taif. So you have to remember that everybody has to have a protector in that era. When you are living somewhere, you need to be under the protection of somebody. So you are under the protection of your tribe. So if that doesn't happen, if your tribe has kicked you out of kicked you out, then you need to find a protection to live in the city. So you can't be without any protection. So when Abu Talib died, Abu Lahab became the chief because he was the second oldest son. So he was the second choice available. So Abu Lahab became the chief of Banu Hashim. So what Abu Lahab did, so not because of out of the love of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or out of the love of Islam, just because of that Jahiliyyah, that he's my tribe member, he's my tribesman, so he's one of us. So he came and he told Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that, look, you carry on doing as you were under Abu Talib, and you will have the same protection from me, although we know that Abu Lahab was quite against Islam, but just because he felt like he needs to be, he needed to be the chief now, so he needed to protect his own his own tribe member. So he said, carry on as you were, nothing's going to change, so you are like you were under Abu Talib. And it only lasted for a couple of weeks, When Abu Jahl heard about that, he said, well, I'll leave it with me. I will do something. I will sort it out. So he went and he said, Abu Lahab, look, go and ask um, your nephew, where is Abdul Muttalib? So where is Abdul Muttalib? Because he has passed away and he's the legend and he's everybody. Like, how can we leave the ways of Abdul Muttalib? So as we've been saying that Abdul Muttalib is like a legend in the Arabs. So
Wait, again, why is he such a big deal?
why?
Yeah.
There are a lot of things. One of them is that he's the one who found the Zamzam. Zamzam was concealed, and he was the one who was found
The second time.
second time.
Once
Yes.
he was concealed, he found it.
Yeah. So he was
They
the one
went out on
expedition, and then yeah. So he's the one who found Zamzam, which was a big deal for Makkah. And then the other thing is, what's in the Quran? This ayah, the Surah Al-Fil. You remember? Elephant, story of elephant.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was in his time. So he's the one
He
who
was
made the
head
dua.
of, the head of Bani Hashim.
Yeah.
the
So he
tribe.
and he was
the
the
highest level you can get.
yeah, and he was the one who was the uh, what do we call Khadimain Sharifain. How would we translate that in English? So he was the Khadim of the Kaaba. He was custodian of the
paper when you go to Saudi Arabia.
yeah. So he was the custodian of the Kaaba.
But so he owned it.
Not owned it. He
Looked
was
after it.
the custodian. Nobody owned
He
it.
had
His
responsibility.
household. He had the responsibility
They
of
divided
Kaaba.
responsibility
Yeah.
between the head of
There's
the tribe.
different tribes.
Okay.
So he was the custodian of the Kaaba, and he made the dua, and then left the Makkah with his whole tribe, and then Allah saved the Makkah after his dua with Ababil, with the birds.
You said he was the one who found Zamzam.
Yeah.
I thought it was was like Ibrahim's
Son. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very well. Yeah, he was the one who initially, the first time, it was Ismail alayhi Islam, when he was thirsty and he rubbed his heels on the ground and the water came out. So that was the Zamzam which came out the first time. But then it was concealed when Khuzar was defeated. So they were leaving. So they did one dastardly deed that they said, okay, we are losing Kaaba now. So what we will do, we will conceal, we will destroy the Zamzam well. So they actually filled it up, destroyed the Zamzam well, and concealed it so that nobody could find it. And then Allah's plan that they kept on looking for it. They dug a lot of times, but never been able to successfully found it. And then when in the time of Abdul Muttalib, Allah showed him in his dream that where the well is. So he went with his sons and dug it up, and that was the well. So he when so sorry, where were we? So yeah, Abu Jahl said ask Abu Lahab to go and ask Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, where is Abdul Muttalib? So he came and he asked, where is Abdul Muttalib? And that again shows us the wisdom of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and it's kind of a lesson for us. So not like the youth of today would say, oh, he's kafir, he's in hell. No, so there's a way of saying everything, even if that's what you want to say. So Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't really responded in that kind of way, but he said he's with his people. So he left it generic, and that's it. So he left it that, and then so Abu Lahab was happy. Yeah, he's with the people. So, but then he went back, and Abu Jahl said, "Oh, you idiot! What do you think? Where is his people?" So it means that he's in hell. That's what he meant. His people are in hell, so he's in hell as well. So that's what he meant. So he got really angry that how dare you tell me that my father is in hell. Although Prophet also never said that. So he came back and he said, I'm revoking the protection. So you are not under the protection of Banu Hashim anymore. So he revoked the protection. So Prophet ﷺ really it was politically very difficult for him to stay. So he thought, let's try another place. So let's find out. Let's see if I can find another place where I can go and live and be able to keep on doing my dawah. So he chose the city of Taif. So why Taif? Because Taif is the closest big city to Mecca, and they knew each other very well. So the tribe which was ruling Taif was Banu Thaqif, and Banu Thaqif and Quraysh, they had like a love-hate relationship. So they at times they were very friendly with each other, and at times they were at war with each other. So they were rivals.
You know, on the is the second Muhammad to be Taif?
Taif is,
No, you know number 2 point.
yes, so
Is
close.
the second Muhammad to be Taif?
The people of Makkah knew the people
Yeah,
of
yes,
Makkah.
yes,
family
yes,
Makkah.
yes, yes. The second Makkah is supposed to be Taif. Yes, that's you're right. I will correct it. So yeah, so they knew each other quite well, and as I said, they had some. And Taif is, I mean, Taif is an amazing city. I mean, Taif has got luscious gardens, green, very green. The weather is quite good. So a lot of Meccan people had like summer resorts areas in the Taif as well. So they used to have
Yeah, I think,
lands.
they come from Riyadh to Taif in the summer.
Yeah.
It's their, like, cool.
Yeah, it's quite, the
area.
temperature is cool, and there's a lot of greenery there. So people of Mecca, they used to actually own lands in Taif as well. So they used to go and do their kind of cultivations in Taif and grow their crops there. So that's why he chose Taif. And I said Abu Lahab only gave Prophet some protection for 20 days, and after that he was without any protection. So living in Mecca became quite difficult. So Prophet uh, took Zayd ibn Haritha, and who's Zayd ibn Haritha? Everybody should know that now.
He's the slave that Khadija gifted him.
Yeah,
for
and
when they married, and was his like adopted son.
he became the adopted son. Very well done.
bringing
Yeah.
son here.
Yeah, well, good, well done. So he was the adopted son who was his slave, but then he freed him and adopted him as his son. So he took Zayd with him, and he went on foot so that he doesn't cause any suspicion, because he didn't want the Quraysh to know. Because leaving Mecca and going and finding a protection somewhere else basically mean that you have immigrated, you don't want to live in Mecca. So coming back will be really difficult for him if they knew. So that's why he didn't pack up and go on a camel or a horse, but he just took the journey on foot with his son, adopted son, and it took him few days to get there. And the narration of Aisha radhiyallahu anha, which is in Bukhari, says that she asked Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was there any other day which is worse than the battle of Uhud? And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes, your people have hurt me and irritated me a lot, but the worst irritation I got was on the day of Aqaba, and that is when he got stoned by the youth of Taif. So that's the place called Aqaba. And the narration continues that on that day I presented myself to the leaders of the Taif, and they didn't respond the way I wanted them to, and they caused me grief and sadness.
And did the angel Jibril ask him if they should harm them? And he said no and leave them, forgive them.
Yeah. Well done, yes, he did, and we will come to that, inshallah. But yes, he did. And Angel Jibril came with the Malakul Jibal, with the angel of the mountains, and he asked him that question. So Prophet ﷺ said that I mean, that's another. So the story goes that one of the narration says that I didn't know where I was until I reached Colonel Salib. So that means that he was in a state of shock, if we have to translate it, that he was walking and he didn't know where he was going until suddenly he got his senses back and he was in Colonel Salib. So he was so traumatized on that day that he didn't even realize that he has reached there. Um, so Prophet ﷺ presented him to the leaders of Taif, and there were three brothers. So when their father died, so Banu Thaqif, the chieftain, when he died, all the brothers, they decided that we will rule simultaneously, so we will rule together. So it's not going to be one leader and the rest would be followed. So all three of them, they were ruling together, Banu Thaqif at that time. So he went there and they were all very rude and very sarcastic to him. So one said that if Allah has sent you, I might as well tear down the curtains of the Kaaba. That how dare you claim to be a prophet? You don't deserve to be a prophet. Na'uzubillah min dhalik. And the second one said that has Allah not found anyone better than you? And Allah has referenced this in Quran as well. And the third one said that, look, I cannot speak to you. If you are telling us the truth, you are too holy. So I can't really feel that I can speak to you. But if you are telling a lie, then you are too lowly, too behind me to speak to, too beneath me to speak to you. So I don't want to speak to you. And even Ishaq has reported a bit more detail that while Prophet ﷺ was rejected by the leaders, he went on to the marketplace and started giving dawah, and there are few people who have accepted Islam, who converted to Islam, and that again show us that yes, you start with the people of power you should approach first, because we know that a lot of times a chieftain has accepted Islam and the whole tribe accepted Islam. So approaching a chieftain is a good thing to do, but then you don't leave the common people. So Prophet ﷺ reached the leaders, but then when they rejected, it doesn't mean that he will leave the common people. So he actually did dawah to everybody else in the marketplaces as well. So um, and when they saw that the people are accepted Islam, that was the time when they panicked and they sent the mob to kick Prophet ﷺ and Zayd ibn Haris out of the city. So that's why when they started throwing stones at him, and the narration says that he lost so much blood that his his footwear was filled with the blood. So they left the city and they kept on walking, and then outside the city they saw Prophet ﷺ saw a wall of a garden with some shades on it. So he sat down to catch his strength, to catch his breath, and that was the garden of Utbah and Shayba ibn Rabi'ah. So who's the second cousin of his father. So they are like uncles to Prophet ﷺ, like not the direct uncles, like the second uncles. And when they saw him, and again all the enemies of Prophet ﷺ, they were not the same. So some have some dignity, the other not. Like not everybody is like Abu Jahl. As we kept on saying that there are people who had some dignity, so their animosity is with dignity as well. And Utbah and Shayba, they seems like those people who were quite dignified, so they never stooped down to lowly tactics. So they were those kind of enemies which has some dignity. So they had some rules, some principles.
So look, the one who Prophet said in the battle of, was it whether the people should listen to the man on the red camel?
Yeah, well done. Yeah, he was the one. So we'll come to that, inshallah. So I won't go into too much detail, but yes, you are right. That is the one. Yeah. So he is the one which Prophet ﷺ has praised in his Seerah quite a few times, and we can see that why. So when Utbah and Sheba saw Prophet ﷺ sitting there, all bloodied and bruised, so they felt sympathy for him. So they sent him some grapes by one of their slaves. His name was Addas. So they sent Addas with a bowl of grapes to give it to Prophet ﷺ. And because it was a gift, and Prophet ﷺ did accept gifts, he won't accept any charity, but he would accept gifts. So he accepted it and he started eating, and then he started with Bismillah. So he said Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and Adas was kind of shocked. What is this phrase? What does Bismillah means? So Prophet ﷺ explained to him that if we start everything with the name of Allah, who's the Lord. So he started preaching him, and he was a Christian himself, Haddas, so he knew what Allah, and he was the true Christians, like the monotheist, proper Christians, and he said straight away said this, yes, that is the same religion as the religion of Isa, and he accepted Islam, and Prophet ﷺ said, no, before that, Prophet ﷺ said, where are you from? So he said, I am from Nineveh. And Prophet said, oh, the land of Yunus, so the land of Jonah. So he was like, how do you know Yunus? Nobody knows Yunus here in Arabic Peninsula. So you must be a prophet. So that's why you know Yunus. So Allah must have told you the story of Yunus. Otherwise, the people of Arabs, they were not aware of Yunus. So who's Yunus is and what's the story of Yunus is. And he accepted Islam straight away, and he started kissing the Prophet's hand, and so and Utbah and Sheba, they were looking what's happening, and they were like, we have just sent our servant with a bowl of grapes, and he's kissing his hand, and it's completely changed. What's happening? So when he came back, they asked him, and he said the whole thing that, look, he's a prophet, and I accept that he's a prophet. There can't be anything else than a prophet, and I'm a Muslim now. And later on in the Battle of Badr, it is narrated that Utbah and Sheba tried to force him to go to the battle with him, and he refused. He said, no, I'm not going with you. I'm not going to go against my prophet who I believe in, which is unheard of. So the slaves won't say no, but he's the one who
They
said,
don't pick and choose what they can do.
yeah,
Did they disown him after that?
no, no, he was their slave. Because he was a good slave, although he's a Muslim, but he's a good slave. And I mean, it's quite an expensive commodity. Slaves, they were not cheap. Obviously, they have spent a lot of money, so they won't let him go, just like that. Um, so Prophet ﷺ was sitting there, and then soon after he heard a noise, and he looked up and he saw Jibreel alayhi salam, and Jibreel alayhi salam said, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am here, I've been sent by Allah with the Malakul Jibal, with the angel of the mountain, and he's on your disposal, he's on your disposal, do whatever you want to do. So the angels of mountain said, if you ask me, I will just crush the Taif between the two mountains. So there was two mountains in each side of Taif, which I've recently heard by one of the scholars actually who went to Makkah recently, and he said one of those mountains is gone. So they have actually cut the mountain up completely and made roads for roads and everything. So only one mountain left. So the two mountains are not there anymore. Only one is left. Um,
They are afraid of being crushed.
Possibly, could be. So, so the two mountains, they said, if you give me the order, I will crush them in between the two mountains. And Prophet ﷺ said no, because I pray to Allah that Allah guide them, and even if they have rejected me, maybe their progeny will accept me, and Allah will make Muslims from their progeny. And that's very true, because all of them actually did accept Islam eventually. And the most famous person from the city of Taif progeny, anybody knows? because we people from Pakistan, India, we know him very well. Who brought Islam to Muhammad bin Qasim? Yes. So Muhammad bin Qasim is the progeny of Taif people. Okay, so yeah, so that's where he come from.
Isn't he the founder of Pakistan?
Hmm?
Isn't he the founder of Pakistan?
He's from what?
Isn't he the founder of Pakistan?
He's not the founder of Pakistan, but he's the first man who brought Islam to that lands.
Oh, okay.
So he conquered Sindh.
Ahmad Ali Jinnah is the
Yeah, Muhammad Ali Jinnah is the founder of Pakistan. So he's Muhammad as well. So at least you are right on that part. Um, there's a famous dua which is mentioned in Ibn Ishaq. It's not mentioned in the Hadith books, but it's mentioned in Ibn Ishaq. And it's a very famous dua, and I've copied the whole one, and I will go through inshallah. So, oh Allah, I complain to you of my weakness, of the strength, and my helplessness and lowliness before men. You are the most merciful and the Lord of those who are humble and weak, and you are my Lord, to whom you leave me with. Um, to somebody who's a stranger that will treat me harshly, that is Abu Lahab. Well, he's not a stranger as such, but he's also the Taif, the chiefs of the Taif, or to a close relative. No, so that is Abu Lahab, or to a close relative who have given ultimate power over me. So that's the Abu Lahab. As long as you are not angry with me, I don't care, except for the fact that your protection from tribulation, your ease and comfort is easier for me. O Allah, I seek refuge in your face, that is the source of the light that gets rid of the darkness because of which this world is guided. And I seek refuge in your face, that your anger comes down. It's your right to criticize until you are content, and there is no power or change except with you and through you. So the question, is it allowed to complain to Allah?
No, he's complaining of his own weakness of strength. Like the Prophet ﷺ complaining that he doesn't have the strength himself to keep the composure and.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yes.
He's not complaining. ﷺ.
He's grateful to Allah for his
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah.
So his complaint is not about why have you done that, which some people do, which is not allowed. So that's not allowed.
But does it really depend on like the situation?
You can't complain the decree of Allah, about the decree of Allah. Allah has decreed something. You can't complain about that. You can't question. Let's put it that way. You can't question Allah's decision. You can't say, why have you done that, Allah? Why me? Why have you done that?
Why you say like, could you ask for something but you're so angry?
Yeah, but you can ask for something better. You can ask for, Allah, I agree with what you have decreed on me. I agree with your decision, but can you please change it for something better for me? So you can ask that. So it's not really complain in that sense.
He was
So
more apologizing for
Yeah.
his shortcomings.
yeah, and he means although he's a prophet and he's been giving dawah all his life since he became the prophet, and he's had so many hardships, and here he's still worried that Allah is angry with me. And there's another lesson for us, that when some hardship come to us, the first thing we should think about, have we done something wrong? Is Allah angry with us? It could be a test, and most of the time it is a test, but we should consider and we should think, if Prophet ﷺ would think like that, why shouldn't we? So we should think that maybe Allah is not happy with me, maybe Allah is angry with me for something which I've done. So we should repent before we do anything else.
My daughter was saying there's something going on Instagram about the Chinese virus
Yeah.
because of their harsh treatment to the Uyghur Muslims.
Yeah, means absolutely. Means I was thinking the same thing the other day, that how no? Why not? Why not?
60 millions in house arrest.
Yeah, means Allah will test you the ways you can't even think of. So, I mean, the thing is that uh, there's a remote village in. I was listening to a scholar. He was telling us that there was a remote village in East Africa where he was then. Um, One day they went with their boats. There's a shipping village. People are fishermen. So, so they went on their boats. We couldn't find any fish. They came back and they went to not Muslims. So they are not Muslims. So they went to their priest or whatever that is, so their religious leader, and he said, "Well, repent for your sins. You must have done something wrong. That's why you didn't get the fish." So that was his answer to them. Uh, the actual answer was that all the Germans and all the big ships, they have taken all the fish, so they don't have any fish left. But that's what he told them to do. So go and repent for your sin. So it's in every religion, in every. So if you are on fitra, that what your fitra will tell you. So naturally, that's the answer which will come to you. That look, you need to look inside yourself first and see, have you done something wrong, and you should ask for forgiveness from Allah, and then look for other things after that. And we have got so many tsunamis and earthquakes and everything, and nobody's really.
Is there also a case of as people and humans, we expect an answer to everything? And from Allah's perspective, He doesn't have to give us answers.
Yes, yeah,
It is because He deems it to be the case.
yeah,
And as it says there, it's your right to criticize
Yeah.
me to you are
content, yeah, exactly.
You don't have to give me an explanation.
Yeah. I mean, so we should not be expecting an explanation from Allah, because
For
that's
everything.
yeah, that's the creator. So if he has to give explanation to everything, then he's not a creator.
So basically, he's complaining about himself and then asking for something easier
Yeah.
to make himself better.
Yeah, exactly. So this, as I said, that this is not authentically narrated in terms of the chains, this dua, but the later on the scholars have accepted it as an authentic dua from Prophet ﷺ, because some of the muhaddithin has said that the content of this dua is so strong that it has to be coming from a prophet. So it can't be from anybody else. Nobody else can make some such dua. So it has to, the content of the dua is so strong that it has to come from a heart of a prophet. So it is accepted as an authentic dua from Prophet ﷺ.
Many of the poets from Pakistan and India, this particular one comes in so many different
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
शब रोज जो दुश्मनों को दुआओं से नवाजे
Mm.
जो जख्म खाकर मुस्कुराए उसे आप क्या कहेंगे.
Mm.
There are many others
Yeah.
as well.
So it's been used in a lot of nasheeds. Yes, you're right.
Wait, no. So like for du'as, they're like things the prophets told us, and then we read them. Is it just anything we can say, or is it just these that the prophet told us to say?
No, you can say, you can make any dua you want, but it's always better to use the sunnah dua, because we can't really ask for anything better than what Prophet ﷺ has told us, but you are allowed to ask for anything
And does it have
in
to
any
be-
language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in any language, in anything. This computer has died, so something has happened. I can't really move it.
He's asking for a dua when he can get a really nice wife.
I'm 13.
This
Maybe a
one-
few years
I'm-
later.
I'm just
Planning ahead.
The key sentence I think is as long as you are not angry with me,
Yeah.
I do not. I don't think care. Maybe I do not mind.
Yeah.
So this is the thing is that
Yeah.
that, you know.
So yeah, that's the essence of the dua, as you said yourself. Yeah, because he's worried that Allah is angry with him, and as long as he's not angry, he doesn't mind he's being stoned or anything. So he doesn't mind that.
And also it kind of tells you to be not revengeful straight away, just be patient and try and bear the pain, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, because he was patient throughout his Meccan era for like 13 years. There was no retaliation whatsoever, neither from himself nor from the Sahaba. So everything was just ignore them, just ignore them. Although they have killed the Sahaba, so they are persecuted to a point where they have killed them. But it was throughout that sabr, just ignore them. That's all.
Many of the scholars take this dua as the dua which made the switch. And straight away, Hatem bin Adi protected him and entered him Makkah again. And he met the people from Medina and the breakthrough happened, following that specific dua.
So in terms of Utbah and Shayba,
Yeah.
they were obviously, they knew who he was, I presume.
Yeah, he was.
Being family.
Yeah. So he was they were the uncles.
No, that's what I'm saying, and they knew who he was.
Yeah, they were Qurayshi. So they were both
At
Qurayshi.
this stage, because I don't know where you were going to go to in terms of your next slide, but they didn't offer him protection or anything of that.
No, they didn't meet him. They didn't meet him. They offered him grapes, but they
so
didn't
they
meet
kept
him.
at a distance.
Yeah, so they didn't go and meet him or anything. So, but they probably knew because they were living in Taif, so they knew what's happening because Prophet Sallallahu was there for a few days, so they probably knew what's going on. But but they didn't offer him any protection.
So they had the opportunity, but they didn't take it.
Yeah. So, but they were Qurayshi, so they were already the same tribe,
Yeah.
and they were not the chieftains of the tribe. They were like second tier.
Wait, again, not a topic, but is it normal for just like anyone to kiss the feet like the
It's
slaves
not
of the
normal,
Prophet?
but it's not normal. But Prophet Sallallahu, there's lots of narrations you can find where Sahaba did similar kind of thing.
Well, that was
We will
slaves,
see. We will see that inshallah in Badr when Prophet Sallallahu was making the ranks and he poked one of the Sahabi to go back, and he said, "Oh, I want revenge. I want qasas." And Prophet Sallallahu dropped the stick and lifted his kind of upper garment up to say, "Okay, you can take the revenge." And he hugged him and kissed him on his kind of abdomen area. So, and Prophet ﷺ said, "What have you done? Why have you done that?" He said, "Well, you can see the position we are in. We are about to die. We are possibly are going to die. So the last thing I want was that my skin is touching your skin, so that before I die. So that's what I wanted."
Distracting him. Why, Sulaiman, don't you kiss the feet of your mom?
No.
They're Jannah there.
You should. You should. So yeah, I mean it's just so we'll quickly finish inshallah. We will. So the next thing is that he comes back. Now he has to go back to Makkah, and as I said, before he left the chiefs of Taif, he said, "Look, one thing. Yes, you have rejected me. You are not accepting my message. But at least do one thing. Don't tell Quraysh that I've come here." Because he's worried that if they tells him that it will be more difficult for him. So he went back and he knew that it will be difficult for him to get back into Makkah now. So he sent Zayd ibn Harisa.
There's no packet.
Okay, just leave it for now. We'll sort
Take them
something
home
out.
with you, because
Yeah, we'll
nobody will eat them here.
There's no
it's okay. We'll
Put
sort
them in
something out.
Tissue. Wrap them with tissue.
Put it in your pocket.
So he sent Zayd ibn Harisa to meet Sahel ibn Amr, and there was another one, Al-Akhnas. So he sent to both of them that look, can you give me the protection? And they both made excuses. They didn't say no, but then they made flimsy excuses. So they didn't want to straight away say no, but they didn't want to give him the protection because they were worried that they can't really give him the protection and
Enforce
keep
it.
their word.
Enforce it.
Yeah. So that's why they said no, and then he sent to Mutam ibn Adi, and Mutam ibn Adi said, "Yeah, I will give you the protection." In fact, he said, "Wait for me there." Because Zayd ibn Harisa went to see Mutam ibn Adi with the message, and Mutam sent Zayd back and said, "Ask Prophet to wait for me there. I'm coming." So he waited, and Mutam asked his 5 sons to put on your those kind of war suits,
Fighting garments.
your fighting garments. So you put on your armors, and then come with your fighting swords. And they all came and they escorted Prophet ﷺ, and he took him to Makkah, and he took him to Kaaba and said, "We are waiting. Go and do tawaf." So he went and he did the tawaf. Then, when he finished the tawaf, he announced that, "Look, I am the one who is giving protection to Muhammad. So if anybody has got any problem, speak now." And they all said, "Yes, he's a chief and he's one of the strong tribe just outside the Makkah." So they didn't want to get on the wrong side of him. So they said, "Yeah, we'll accept your protection." So basically, Prophet ﷺ remained under his protection for the next 1.5, 2 years before he immigrated to Medina. And we will take it from there, inshallah, next time. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa atubu ilayk. Any questions before we call it a day?
Now the Arabs are looking to Russia and America